And we're live. Welcome, everybody. For those of you who don't know me for some reason, I'm Vitor. I have here with me Brandon Duff, which now has a new title in branding, apparently. He's been my friend for a few months here on YouTube. He's scammed me
Few
for over
months.
$20,000, but no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Few months. I feel like we've known each other for a few years now.
Yeah, I think it's been a few years. I think
Yeah,
it's
it's
been a
been a
few years.
while.
So apparently, you're now the passive income dad.
Yep. We are having our first child in October, so I'm very excited about that. We have a baby girl on the way, and so I switched my branding from the Monopoly Man and the boring passive income guy to the boring passive income dad, and now I have like a little mic, and so I look like a content creator or a pretend one.
Of course, of course. Congratulations, man. Very happy for you. Ours is like 4.5 now. Time
Wow.
really flies, but yeah, it's incredible. And another thing that I realized is that we scheduled this meeting to talk about passive income, but then I realized this is actually very useful for my clients as well because I specialize in relocation, as you probably
Right.
know, helping people move here into Portugal. And one of the most popular visas is the D7 visa. The D7 visa actually requires that you have passive income to be approved to come here into Portugal. So that's what today's conversation is all about, right? Oh, by the way, shall we do it like this or maybe like this?
The other one I think is a little bit better.
Yeah, this
Cause
one.
yeah,
Okay,
because
there
then
we
you
go.
can see your banner.
Yeah. Still need to change this because it's a lot of information. Make it more simple. Anyway, so long story short, we're here talking about passive income. So why don't you tell us a little bit of how you started, what you've been doing, what kind of things have you worked with? Because I know that you have made passive income with tons of different things, right? So tell us a little bit about your history and why should people listen to you?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, this is not financial advice. So, I'm
No,
just
it's not.
a
No, don't do it.
YouTuber who likes to do fun things on the interwebs and make money. So, I actually was a personal trainer before. I made a lot of money doing personal training back in California, and I kind of got bored of it. And I didn't want to be a trainer all my life. I wanted to kind of all my clients were able to essentially come to the gym and be able to work out with me and pay me a good deal of money before having to go to work. And I was like, I want to be able to do that. That sounds pretty cool. And I've noticed that all of them had one thing in common, which was real estate. And so when I was a personal trainer, I was like, I should probably start leveraging all this cash flow that I'm getting and invest it into income producing assets. And so I started buying real estate in 2015. And by I think 2019 or 2020, we had 10 units. And
Oh,
so
that
10
was fast.
doors. Yeah, it was quick. And so I thought, this is great. I have 10 doors that could replace my income as a personal trainer because I was making well over six figures, and the cash flow from the gross income from the rentals were well over six figures also. The only problem is I had to wait 30 years for the mortgages to fall off so that I could actually, I guess, see that real gains in a sense. And so what happened was right before COVID, my wife and I moved to Texas. So I actually gave up my fitness business to another trainer, and he was able to buy his fiance a ring. So he was given like a six-figure business because I couldn't take it with me. It was local. It was localized, right? So all my clients would come to me, and so I didn't want to keep trading time for money. That's why I invested in real estate. And I had a property manager that handled all of the properties. So he would just send me checks every single month when rent was due.
That must have
And
been terrible, huh?
yeah, it was horrible, just getting those. Actually, it wasn't checks; it was direct deposit into my bank. Who uses checks
Oh,
anymore?
even worse. Oh,
And I didn't even have to go to the bank, so it was really good. And then I moved to Texas, and I was like, you know what, I need to do something from home because I want to be a stay at home dad at some point, and want to be able to spend time with whatever child we're going to be having. And luckily for in this year, like we were talking earlier, we're having a baby girl. And so we actually sold all of our real estate at the top of the market, and we're pretty much before interest rates went sky high. And I paid off my wife's student loan debt, bought this house that we live in, and it pretty much increased our net worth, decreased our liabilities, and increased my wife's cash flow because I got to pay off her student loan debt while she got to enjoy college. So I got the college experience of debt, but not really the college experience. And so I started Dave, that's awesome. I can't wait to be like you someday. And so, and it's coming up soon. So I'm really excited to be able to have that. So I was just talking to Dave in the chat, but and if you guys want talk in the chat, it's live, so we'll definitely be engaging with all of you. Yes. So as I got online, I started a software company, and it was a CRM Facebook tool, and it was a tool to help small business owners kind of track their leads. And it was kind of like digital real estate, right? Like you have a piece of an asset where you rent out essentially to other people, and they pay monthly rent. And so it was great. I really loved it. And then I realized that I was paying a developer way too much money to do nothing. And so we had a falling out, and I needed to, think of something else. And so I don't know if you probably don't know this, Victor, but I've been renting my car out for a while now on this.
Oh, of course. That's been one of the things you've been talking about the most lately.
And so I've been renting my car out, and I had one car for the last 3 years just being rented out. And at the beginning of the year, I was like, I should probably add a second car. And so I bought a second car, and that was rented out 100% of the time. And then over the last 60 days, I've actually bought 4 more cars. So now we have 6 cars that are making more money than any real estate property that I've ever owned. And yes, Toro. Cash flow is better than any rental property. And yes, Dave, Toro. And so I was renting it out, and they're getting way better cash flow than any rental property I've ever had. And so I got it up to 6, and now I want to take it to 12. And so before my wife gives birth, my goal is to get up to 12 rental cars, all rented out. And I only have one car on Toro now because I have more private rentals now. And so I'm renting it out to people. And then my plan is to, over the next 2 to 3 years, grow it to about 80 cars. That'd be about $1 million a year. And I'm about 10% of the way there. And from there, I'll just either franchise it out and start other lots all across the country because I know the market. Plus, I'll have the systems in place and all that, and I'll know the insurance and that sort of thing, so I can franchise it, or I can exit in a sense where I get bought out by a larger competitor. So it just really depends. But that's what I've been really focused on lately, is taking my earnings from my car rentals, reinvesting them into either more cars, more crypto, or stocks, and just diversifying. So that's kind of been my little rental journey, or my passive income journey.
That's awesome, man, and congratulations on your success. What is like the what's the return you're getting on the car rental?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll give you my little strategy in a sense. So we have a Southwest Companion Pass, and that allows my wife and I to travel for free, essentially. Oh, she travels for free, and I use my points to travel. So we've gone to Cabo and a few other places. And so whenever I buy a car, I put down $5,000 down on my credit card, so I get the points. And in doing so, I just pay it off right away, that $5,000, and then I finance the rest. And typically, my numbers look like $250 to $300 in debt service, and I rent them out for $1,100 a month. So it's about a 4x per car on the cash flow, what it requires, versus real estate. I was getting about $100 to $200 a door. With each car, I'm getting closer to $800 and $900 a door.
Wow, that's certainly quite the difference. So you're getting 4x your cash flow.
I'm
right?
getting 4x the debt service. Yeah.
Yeah. You're getting 4x how much you're paying, and you're only putting down like 5,000, right?
Right.
In 5 months, it basically pays for itself.
So
And
it
then,
depends. So I could pay it off, and I have a car that I might be paying off here shortly.
no, I
But
mean, I meant that in 5 or 6 months you get back your initial investment, and then
right,
it just
yeah. So I do get it's about a year, and I get 100% cash on cash return.
Awesome. Wow, that's really quick returns. I'm not sure if we can do that quite here in Portugal, for example. I think that for me to get like a car rental, it needs to be a new car. It needs to be, I think, at most 3 years old or something, and insurance and all of these things. I don't know if it's the similar way right there, or if you can just rent out any car using that technology.
So here, I know that in some countries, they with how they do like pollution, you can only you have to have like a 3 year or less new car in a sense.
Oh yeah, that's
For
probably it.
for
Yeah.
me, I think they allow for up to 15 years. So like my cars, I have cars between 2015 and 2020. So they're all not older, but they're all hybrids, and they're all not new cars, they're used cars. So I only buy used cars just because I'm not going to pay for the depreciation for driving off the lot. That just doesn't make sense to me. So I'd rather buy a car that has already depreciated a little bit, and I can retain that value and drive it gets to 150,000 miles or so. And then I can have a company that buys more used cars and take those cars, take the profits, and then reinvest it into buying 2 new cars from the cash. And so you just keep rinsing and repeating doing that, and you're able to grow a little fleet.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so then, as you get paid, or rather, as your money pays you, because you're not really doing a lot actively for you to get those returns, as your money pays you, you can get more things that will pay you without you having to do the work. So
Right.
it does
Yeah,
the compounding, right?
It becomes like a flywheel, right? Like the more money that you get in, the more money that you need to make sure goes out, that you're diversifying, you're buying more assets, you're investing that money. And it becomes a flywheel in a sense where as you have more assets and you have more investment opportunities, more cash flow comes in. So it's just allocating those resources to make the best return on your investment.
All right, awesome. So now, one of the things that I also want to do, which I'm sure it's what you do as well, which you haven't gotten there yet, but now what I'd like to do is just go over some of the terms that we mentioned and talked about, because some people watching this, they may not be as familiar with these topics. I know how I was when I started. I had no idea what any of these things mean. I had to study for years to start understanding it. So I want to go over a few of those words and terms that we used. Then I want to hear about what you do and how people can do business with you if they want to contact you directly or whatever. And then also, lastly, I want to talk about your failures, right? Because I'm sure you've lost a lot of money in all of this. And that's also, or some. But I think it's also important for people to know that the losing money is also part of the deal.
Oh yeah,
right?
definitely. And I
It's
have
not just a sea of roses.
Yeah, definitely. So go ahead and add some of the terms. Do you have any specific terms? So the cash on cash return, for instance, is how much money I invest and how quickly I can get it back, and that's including debt service. So just to throw out numbers, if I were to invest $5,000 and I'm getting $1,000 a month, and my debt service is $500, free flow cash flow I'm getting is $500. So it would take me 10 months. So 500 times 10 would give me that 5,000. And so that would be my cash on cash return. And so to give it in perspective with real estate, I was getting about 7 to 10% cash on cash return
Not bad.
per year. And so that was, I mean, it would take me 10 years to get that money back.
Which isn't bad
Instead,
for real estate.
yeah, which isn't bad for real estate. But I mean, but you don't get with the car rental business, you don't get the appreciation that you get with real estate. You don't get the creative financing, that sort of thing. Versus with the car rental business, I can depreciate the asset. I'm going to have to re-add that back into my taxes, but I'm able to get 100% of my cash on cash return, or 100% of the cash I invested back within a year, so that I can rinse and repeat.
Yep. Appreciation and depreciation. What the hell is that?
Yeah. So appreciation is the value of an asset as it increases. And so, like with real estate, as time goes on and inflation happens, that asset appreciates over time, and that you're able to borrow against that appreciation if you refinance or anything like that. With depreciation, it's essentially the value, the car losing value. And so as that value decreases, we're able to write that loss off. And I'm not a tax expert, but I obviously talk to and this is going to depend on where you live, because taxes are different all over the world. So talk to your financial advisor on, if you're able to do this. But we're able to depreciate the value. And you can do that with real estate too. So like when you buy a new roof for your house, you can depreciate the value of the roof. You can depreciate the appliances. A lot of these other things you're able to take write-offs off. So that's the difference.
Write-off basically means you'll have to pay less in taxes because you have that expense, right?
Yeah. So with the car rental business, it's very cash flow heavy, but you're able to write off a lot, which lowers your taxable income. And so it's allows you to recoup. It makes it seem like you don't make as much money as you do, because you're able to lower your taxable income.
Yeah, that's one of the things I found fascinating when we started our own company, is the realization that as a company, you basically buy things for cheaper, right?
Yes.
Because it's like, let's say there's this cell phone that costs 100 euros or dollars or whatever. Here in Portugal, the VAT is 23%. So if I'm a consumer and I buy that phone as an individual, I'll have to pay 123 euros to get it.
Right.
That's what I spend, period. But if I buy it as a company, so I still pay the 123, but then those 23 euros in taxes, I don't have to pay at the end of the quarter in taxes. I don't know how accounting works there, but here that's kind of how we do it. Every quarter, you pay the taxes on what you invoice and all of those things. So right off the bat, what you buy, you basically get the 23% discount, because that's that less amount of tax that you need to pay. But then those 100 euros that I invest on the phone, those will also be deduced or depreciated from our profits,
right,
which will then be taxed at the end of the year at around 28%. So that's another 28 euros that we earn. So as an individual, that phone would cost me 123. As a company, it would cost me between 70 or 80 euros.
Right. Yeah, and that's the great thing about owning your own company is instead of working for someone, so if you work for someone, you get your income and then it's taxed, and then you can spend the money post-tax. As a business owner, you get your money, you spend the money that you have on expenses, and then you get taxed on what's left over. So it just allows you more freedom to, I guess, have your money go further and work for you even better, even more.
Exactly. Now, at least here in Portugal, there are some considerations to take. Namely, if you have a new business, and I'd like to hear how different it is from where you are. So if you open a company here, right, equivalent to an LLC, a limited liability. If you open a company like that here, and you're like the manager, or you and your wife, you're both managers or whatever, you need to deduce for Social Security. And on our case, that means you usually have a salary, And if you have a salary and you earn 760 gross income as your salary, which then gets taxed, so you get like 613 in your account. That's a minimum wage here per month. The company has an expense of almost 1,100 euros, because about 308 is social security, plus like 100 that you pay as an individual, right? Plus here you need to hire an accountant. If you're lucky, you're getting between 100 and 150. I've heard cases of people that have it for lower, but on average, you're looking at between 100 and 150. So, and this is every month. So you have about 400, 500 euros of expenses as a company every single month, whether you produce or not. Is it something quite like that there, or not really?
So I don't know, because I literally just give all my stuff to my accountant, and I just say, here, at the end of the
Fair
year,
enough. Fair enough.
you do it all, and that way I don't have to ever think about that kind of stuff.
Fair
I
enough.
know that you need to pay yourself a reasonable wage based off of what you make. And so that's one of the requirements, essentially. If you're making nothing, then obviously you don't have those that $500 that you have to pay. So I think it's a little bit different, but that's why I hire professionals that are accountants, so I don't have to think about that.
As you should. But yeah, on this case, you need to have the minimum wage. You can't give yourself lower than that. You can choose not to receive a salary, but you pay almost the same amount in Social Security anyway, so might as well have a salary. So that's one way that you can take money out of the company. No, actually, since we're talking about differences, there is something interesting as well that I learned from an accountant. It seems like that between Portugal and the US, basically here, the accounting and for tax purposes and all of that is made based on your invoices sent and received, right? Whereas in America, it's done based on how much money you have in your register. What do I mean by this? So let's say that some company, right? 10 clients, and you sent an invoice for $1,000 each, and you received invoices up to $5,000 for you to pay, right?
Right.
Let's say that only 2 clients paid you, and that you haven't paid the other expenses either. Here in Portugal, it doesn't matter that 2 or 10 of them paid you. You will have to pay the taxes based on the 10,000 that you put in the system. So whether or not you receive the money, you need to pay taxes on that. Likewise, you haven't paid your suppliers yet, even though you have 5,000, but you can already deduce those 5,000 in expenses, even though you haven't paid those 5,000 yet. Whereas it seems like that in America, you would only need to pay taxes on those $2,000 that you actually received, because that's how much you have on your account.
Yeah, I believe that's exactly how it's. I mean, it's funny. I went back to school when I was a personal trainer, because I was going to go to go to school to better my business. Essentially, I was making a lot of money in fitness, and I was like, I should probably start taking business classes just so I can learn stuff. And I got to the accounting class, and it talks about accounts receivable and payable, and I was like, why do I have to take this class? Because I already have a CPA, and my CPA is doing all this. You guys should just give me an A. They didn't give me an A, so I was like, F this, I'm done with school. And so that would, again, be a question for my CPA. When it comes to accounts receivable, I mean, I give him my statements. I give him pretty much my QuickBooks, and he handles everything. So I don't have to worry about that. Obviously, I know kind of what's coming in, what's going out. But I don't, just like you said, I'm 90% positive it's not like Portugal. It is based off of how much we're actually comes into our invoices, how much money we've actually made, and we're taxed off of after we've paid all of our expenses.
Yeah, that seems to make sense, because we sent an invoice to a client of 1,500 plus tax They haven't paid us yet, but we already had to pay tax on that. So
Crazy.
but yeah, I mean, if the client doesn't pay whatever, then we need to ask for credit and do these things, and then the person has to sign. Which, talking about CPA, it reminds me I still have some American tax returns here that I need to fill out, and I have no idea how to do this. But yeah, so the next thing then that I wanted to ask is, so what about your failures, right? What kind of things have you done or invested in or tried to do that didn't quite work as well as you'd hoped? Which I'm sure were good learning experiences for you.
Yeah, definitely. So since I've been in a lot of different fields, I can give you quite a bit of failures. So the first one is for the first few years, I didn't niche my market as a personal trainer. I just would be I'll take anyone who wants to train with me and I'll train them. And that really got me nowhere, because if anybody wants to train with me, then no one's going to train with me, essentially. And so I ended up niching down to training particular just men in general, mostly CEOs, CFOs, people that want to take care of themselves. And that's how I did really, really well. And I had a particular niche market. And so that was one thing. And then I started a brand right after I got into the fitness industry, after I was doing well, and I called it the Pink Collar Millionaire. And I wanted, instead of blue collar or white collar, I guess pink collar is more of the service industry. And that didn't take off at all. So I ended up abandoning that. And then when I actually moved into Texas, I started affiliate marketing and realized that I'm going to do what everyone else was doing, was promote ClickFunnels. And that didn't do so well because everyone else was trying to sell to each other, and it wasn't conducive to what I wanted to do. And so I actually swapped and went to their competitor, which was High Level. And I've been with High Level ever since. And it's a great piece of software. And I actually ended up taking that software and white labeling it and put it into my own branding and selling it to ClickFunnels users. And I did really well doing that. And that yeah. And it worked out really, really well. And so that's how I kind of got my first start with software. And that's when I got into making my own software with Super Facebook tools. And then from there...
Super Facebook tools is the CRM tools you created for Facebook, right?
Right. So
you want to put the link in there so people can access it, or do you just
no, I really don't push it too often. It'd be a disservice to them, because I just don't really care too much about it, and I just don't want people to buy something that I don't care about. Very nice. And if you guys want to support me, definitely subscribe to the channel here with Victor, because he has an awesome channel. So make sure you're subscribed. That would be a good service for me. But as far as some other failures, I mean, like for instance, getting into crypto and having my money locked into Luna, I lost about $40,000 there with that collapse. But I've made way more than I actually invested into crypto. I've also learned that partnerships for me aren't the greatest. So for whatever reason, they just end up collapsing for one reason or another, just like with my software company. And then as far as like the car rental business, I haven't had any accidents or anything crazy, but I did buy a Fusion that I thought was a hybrid, and it was an EcoBoost. So I essentially bought the wrong car. And now that I know what to look for, it is what it is. But I'm probably going to sell that car pretty soon. But the girl that has been renting it for 2 months in a row, like nonstop, just keeps signing up. So I don't have to do anything there. But I've had a few failures, and I've had much more successes. But learning opportunities, and I'm sure I've had a million other failures that some people think they're failures, but they just leave my head so quickly that I don't really remember them, because I mean, for me, they're learning opportunities, and it allows me to continuously grow.
Yeah, so, you don't even think of them as failures for the most part, right?
Yeah,
and like you get your cash liquidated or something. Okay, yeah, that's a clear-cut failure, but I still learn from it.
Right.
But if it's not something as drastic, it's more like, okay, what can I learn from this?
Right. And I mean, I'm sure like I don't know, just with content, creating content, doing something wrong, like those things leave my head so quickly. It's something that I don't dwell on, and I think a lot of people dwell on their failures too much. And if you're able to get past your failures and continuously use them as kind of not trampolines, but as a way to propel you forward, then you're going to just do a lot better in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just remembered me that you reminded me that. So I'm in a group that's about small YouTubers, right? And a lot of people there have very successful channels, but the post that you see the most is someone that's like, "Oh, I just created my channel 1 month ago. Why am I not getting views?"
Right.
But another thing I noticed is that a lot of people, and I've been there, right? I own another YouTube channel for like 13 years now.
Yeah, it has a lot of viewers.
Yeah, almost 6 million views already. But
awesome.
One thing that I noticed is that a lot of people also seem to think about, oh my God, how do I make my old videos get more views? Or like they'll make a video and then they will go like back to the YouTube group, like with an old video, like how do I get this to get more views or whatever? How will the algorithm benefit me and so on and so forth? And it reminds me of one time when I was reading a book by Grant Cardone, and there's a part where he talks about successful people, they're focused on producing the next thing. And like, if you ask Jay-Z about the song he wrote 12 years ago, he doesn't care. Like, no, I'm working on this song now.
Right.
And I think that's what should be done. Like, you do something, you make the best thing you can. Perfect. It's out there. It's created. Like this podcast, right? This is like I've just done maybe 4 or 5 episodes, I guess, in this format. I'm sure I'm going to be looking back into the future. In the future, I'm going to be looking back and like, oh my God, that was terrible. If I even remember to look back at this, right? Because I'll just keep on having new guests. Maybe we'll have you on again if you like. Maybe I'll have another guest on. Maybe I'll interview Grant Cardone someday. Who knows, right? Just keep on going forward. Stop getting stuck on the past. Learn from it, and then try to leap. There's something to be said about taking small steps. I'm sure you agree. But there are also ways where there are also situations where you can leap forward. You don't always need to grow linearly. You can make a decision that will make you grow exponentially. Have you had any situations where you very quickly really grew and then went on to the next stage from there? Or was it all kind of...
Yeah, I think with just investing in general, like with real estate, for instance, I started with one and then I bought a second one and then I bought a 4-unit, and that's 4x essentially or 2x essentially from where I started just a year previously.
Did you buy all that with savings, with cash from your business, or how did that
work? My first rental property is obviously, for anyone, it's the hardest. So I bought it straight out of cash. I mean, I put my down payment down of 20%, and then the next year. What was it?
How were you feeling back then?
Well, it's funny. I have a story about that. I've read a few books, and I was confident in buying, and we drove to Vegas to meet some lady who was renting our property, and she was telling me the sob story about how her dad just died, and she is so grateful to be able to move into a new place, and so grateful that we're able to give her a place to rent with her children. And so I was like, oh, I'm glad I can do that for you. So we met up with her, and we gave her the keys, and she knew we were from California, so that we were going to be driving back that night. And we from there, yeah, I can talk about. I'm talking about it right now. And so, I don't have a portfolio anymore, but I will talk about it. So we bought the one property and gave it to her. And later that night, maybe 10 o'clock, right after dinner, I get this call from her. And she's like, hey, Brandon, my mom's in the hospital now. I need to go see her. Is there any way we can, tear up the lease? You can keep the deposit, the down payment. Yes, the crypto portfolio. we can we can tear up the lease. You can keep the down payment, the deposit, and we'll just go our own ways. And I was like, yeah, fine, whatever. Like, we were super stoked that we got this first rental. And then it was by this time, all said and done, it was just way too late. So we weren't going to drive home. We stayed on the like right on the border of Nevada and California at a hotel. And I just had this I just had this gut feeling that something wasn't right. There's no way, like, your parent and your next parent and the sob story, it was just too much trauma in a short amount of time. And so it was just like, you know what, I'm going to call the locksmith and have them change the locks. And so I called an emergency locksmith. They went to the house, they changed all the locks. And the next day we went and got the keys and we went to the lock and it didn't work. And so I called them and I was like, hey, you sure you changed these locks? Because the key's not working. And so I look in the keyhole and there's a broken off key inside, because the woman who was she got copies of the keys and she knew we were leaving, so she was going to squat. And you don't learn anything like that in a book. That's just instinct and gut feelings.
And that was the first rental?
Yeah, my very first rental.
How did you even have that awareness?
I just had this gut feeling. I was like, you know what? I need to change these locks, whatever it is. There's just like I said, like, there's too much trauma going on in a short amount of time that she overplayed it. I think she just overplayed it. And I just was like, you know, I should change it, protect my asset. And I think that's just another thing, is protecting your assets.
Yeah. And sorry to interrupt, but that reminds me that I know this may seem a bit controversial or cold-hearted, or whatever, but from my experience, I've yet to find one situation where taking pity out of someone has positive results for anyone involved.
100%. And
even on real estate, I'm a real estate agent. Yep. Here in Portugal, you tend to find two types of landlords. The first type is the landlord that's super accommodating. They want to help you out. They want to be reasonable. They give you a fair rental price, two upfront payments the first 2 months, and then maybe 1 month of security deposit because you're new in the country or whatever, and they want to help you out. And then there's the second type of landlord, which used to be the first, but then had a tenant, usually, foreigners, that completely destroy their property.
Yep.
Left the whole place a mess. And now, yes, they will rent it out to you, but if you don't have a Portuguese guarantor and co-signer that will pay the rent on your behalf, they ask you for like 6 months advance security deposit plus 2 or 3 months rent upfront if you want to get in there. I've seen cases where they would only rent out a place if you pay the whole 12 months in advance, because they've been burned so badly from people just because they wanted to do good for someone, but people take advantage. So I think you would agree with me here that, yes, it's great to help people. It's great to be accommodating. But in particular, when it comes to these things, we shouldn't have pity on people. Help them out, negotiate with them, whatever, but be careful when there's a lot of emotional stuff going on. On this case, it seems like it was all a tactic just to maybe let your guard down or something.
Yeah, and I mean, we had something similar where with a car rental, we had this lady, she... I should have done it from the very beginning, and I knew it was just not a good thing, but I rented her the car through Toro. She brought it back, and the first thing I smelled it, and I was like, this smells like smoke. Like, I can't rent this to you.
No.
And I can't rent this to you. And then she's like, no. I had a passenger and they were smoking in the car. I'm like, no, you didn't. Like, you're a liar. I didn't say this to her, but in my head, I was like, you're a liar. And you're not going to drive around someone else smoking in the car. It's going to be you. Like, if you don't smoke, you're not going to have someone driving in someone else's car, smoking in the car. And, through like rideshare or whatever, people know like that's not allowed. It was
Yep.
you because you're a dirty little human being. And so I
Yep.
rented it to her. I rented it to her anyways, and I get like this sob story a couple days later, and she's telling me how she calls me. I was like, if you need anything, just reach out to me. She calls me like the next day. She's like, you told me that if I need anything, I figured I'd give it a shot. And she's like, I'm about to be evicted, and I do you know anyone who gives loans and this? And I'm
Oh,
like,
why?
B, like, you need to like figure out, because one, if you're being evicted, you're probably paying too much money to live where you are. So go rent a room. Like, you can't afford where you live, downsize and actually live somewhere that you can afford. And then she was telling me how she just lost her job, and I was like, man. And I talked to my wife that night. I was like, we need to get the keys and get her the F out of this car, because something's going to happen where she's going to take it, or she's going to ruin it, or whatever. I realized that I didn't have the fob. I only had the physical key, which doesn't start the car because it doesn't have the fob near it. I'm like, mother effer. So luckily, I sent her the contract that I said, hey, you need to fill this out. And for whatever reason, she's like, it's not what I agreed on. So she returned it. So I was going to give her cash for keys, essentially. So luckily, she returned it and it was all good. But I was really lucky in that aspect.
Bullet dodged itself.
Yeah, I dodged some bullets, to say the least. But as far as crypto, like one night asked, I did. So I was investing in a lot of play to earn games. I was very heavy into Axie Infinity, was making money renting out my NFTs to players. So I've always leveraged assets essentially to make money, and made really good money from Axie Infinity. We started a course teaching people how to make money from Axie Infinity. That did really, really well. And then from there, I was not leveraged, but I was into a lot of the play to earn space. I owned 3 nodes with Gala Games, and I was getting cash flow from the Gala nodes. And then I ended up selling those nodes to another investor and exited that position. But I had a wide variety of crypto. Lately, I've been only holding Ethereum. And what I do now is just leverage Ethereum. So I buy Ethereum, and I call this the infinite money loop. But essentially, I hold Ethereum and either on Aave or somewhere that you can essentially borrow against it. And then I take that and borrow against my Ethereum and send it to my bank. I take it from my bank and buy cars, and those cars create cash flow. And then I take that cash flow and buy more Ethereum, and then loan it again on Aave, and keep looping it that way. I used to do this with crypto, where I would essentially take my gains and then put it into whatever token, borrow against that token, and buy more tokens. But when the market crashed, everything was crashing, so I didn't have really the loan that I was getting underwater. The tokens that we're holding were dropping, so I needed to think of a different way to have another asset vehicle to leverage. And so that's why another reason why I'm buying Ethereum, borrowing against it, and then buying cars, because the cars, even though those lose value, it's still producing cash flow. Or you could do this with homes, which would be ultimately the next strategy, but cars pay so much better cash flow. And so I've been
Cash flow is good, right?
It is the king. And so I just take my crypto whenever my tenants pay me their weekly rent. I buy more Ethereum, and then I put it into Aave to hold, essentially, and I just keep repeating the cycle. So I'm only right now holding like Ethereum, leveraging my Ethereum to buy cars. The cars pay me cash flow. I buy more Ethereum, and I rinse and repeat.
So here's a question that may be a bit more personal. If you don't want to answer, that's fine. I think people want to know how much you're making per month. If you don't want to answer, then I'd like to hear how much more are you making this year per month, at least in percentage wise, than you were last year around the same time.
Oh, that's a great question. So I rent out my vehicles for $1,100 a month. So about $72,000 a year from just the 6 vehicles. Same time last year, I was doing, I'd have to look at my tax return, but I would say, so the previous year before that, we sold all of our real estate, and I think we paid $100,000 in taxes, is what I remember. So we made it quite a bit, but we had capital gains there. Last year, I want to say we were close to, between me and my wife, around 200,000. And then this year, I'm probably going to make more money than last year because I'm going to be buying more cars. So if at the same rate that I'm going, I should be roughly around 175,000. And then from there, I'm just going to keep rolling the profits in. And my goal is within the next 2 or 3 years with the car rental business, be up to $1 million a year.
Awesome, man. It just compounds, right? The beginning is always the hardest, and then you start getting a little extra, little. You start reinvesting, and then boom, it just blows up, and then all of a sudden it's a full-time job learning how to manage all that money, right?
Yeah. So I think that I was doing better 3 years ago because I had my real estate, but I took 2 steps back, essentially, or 1 step back to pay down my wife's $151,000 student loan debt and buy our house. So I would say 3 years ago, I was not as much net worth as I am today, but it wasn't making as much cash flow as it once was three years ago. So, but if I were to, in the next year, I'll have more net worth and I'll be making more than I was 3 years ago. So we took a step back. My wife's making a lot more now because I paid off her student loan debt. But I would say that I'm going to be making, at the end of this year, I'll have more net worth and I'll have more cash flow than I was making last 2 years.
If you don't mind me asking, how much were the interest rates, or how much were they docking your wife's pay or something?
No, they were. So she had like a whole lot of student loan debt. And in order to, I guess, buy our house, which is a 3,500 square foot house on a 9,100 square foot lot, we have 4 bedrooms, 4 baths, a theater, we have this office, and then we have a whole upstairs guest floor that's unused. So
we can drop by and sleep there for a few
days.
days.
There's a whole guest floor for you guys.
Awesome.
But as far as why, I think it was like 6. I don't remember. Actually, I think I have it might be on my Facebook. There's a picture I know for sure on there of me paying it off, and there might be the interest rates on there. But I think
I remember seeing that post, but I don't remember the numbers.
I know that she was very concerned about being in property management and how much money she was making and being able to afford to pay her side of the mortgage, essentially. So I figured I'd pay off her student loan debt, which would put her in a better place. But she got a new job in the last year, and she's making way more money than she was making. So overall, I think over the last 2 years, we've just grown even more. So, I mean, we last year we went on 12 vacations. So I mean, we're not struggling at all.
And this year you're coming to Portugal, right?
I want to. So we've gone on 3 vacations this year, and we have 4 coming up. So and they're all in California, and I think we're going to do like a baby moon. But with the baby coming up, we might not have much time to travel after that.
Or sleep.
So I wake up pretty early every single day because we have a puppy. So I'm pretty used to waking up all through the night.
We'll see. We'll see about that, because the puppy doesn't cry.
She barks. She barks, and she barks at 4 o'clock in the morning to go pee, and then she barks at 5 o'clock in the morning to go pee. She did pretty good today, actually, so I'm
I
very
see. So
excited.
they're getting the pre-training already.
I
Yeah.
am getting the pre-training already.
You know what it is like to wake up in the middle of the night and then staring for like 1 minute and see if you see the chest going up and down. Is this breathing?
Oh, the baby, yeah, she'll
Yes.
probably do that. We just put the bassinet in our room, which I think in Europe they say something different. Because Brian
I
sent me. You don't know what a bassinet is?
yeah, the thingy where you put the baby in.
Right. So Brian called it a pram, PRAM, which I've never
Oh,
even heard of. So I
and
guess
then
that's
there's
like a
the UK English and the American
yeah.
English. And
So I'm very excited. I'm used to waking up, and as a personal trainer, waking up super early is no big deal for me. So, but we have the baby in we'll have the baby in our room. So we'll definitely be waking up early and waking up all through the night to handle that.
Sure, yeah. And I mean, yeah, that's awesome. And whenever you're ready to go into Portugal, no, I'll be here. I'll be happy to show you around. I live here in the north. My favorite parts of Portugal, really.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, how can we help you get closer to your 1 million per year?
Oh man, if you can talk to the Fed and tell them to lower interest rates, so I can buy more cars at a lower interest rate, that'd be great.
Okay, sure. After we're done with this meeting, I'll give them a call.
All right, good. Yeah, I mean, if anyone knows any private investors who don't want to make as much money as they could on loaning money, then that would be a great option. But yeah, right now the banks are. So I had a loan, not a loan. I have a line of credit with one company for $500,000 to use, and it was just the interest rate didn't make sense. And so now I re-talked to them, and they gave me they gave me $181,000. So half of what essentially, or 2/3 of what they previously gave me for 8.1%. So I'm going to probably use that. So I have enough essentially to get me to the 12 cars that I want really, really quickly. But, banks have been a headache. And I'm now talking to another insurance company. So I would say that's, I would say the best is to subscribe to this YouTube channel because then, you guys can learn a few
I'm
things.
not paying you though, right?
No, that would be the best, I think, to be honest.
Yeah, that's awesome. Helping other people succeed help us succeed as well, right? But
Exactly.
actually, wouldn't you be able to maybe get private investors or something? People lending you the money, and then you invest and you pay them, maybe lower than the interest rate you're getting.
Right.
Still higher than what they would get at the bank, because here's the thing: a lot of people have no idea. They have tons of money in their bank accounts and they have no idea what to do with it. They just keep it at the bank, get 0.05% return, and wow, that sneeze went away really fast. That went, they don't have a return. So even if they only get let's say 4 or 5%, it's not the best return on your investment, but a lot higher than most people are used to. And until they learn how to do it, then maybe that could be an interesting thing for people.
Yeah, there's a million different options. Right now, I have an 821 credit score. I have tier 1 credit, amazing credit. My mom actually was like, "Hey, I'll give you money because it's my money is just sitting in the bank." So she bought one car with me, or I bought one car from her, and I'm gonna pay her back essentially. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I could do that. I'm actually going to be going to a business networking international kind of group, and that could be essentially an option where I start pitching in a sense that way and get referrals that way. But yeah, I mean, there's a million different ways. I was thinking about doing NFTs and having them where they own a percentage of the company, and a percentage of the revenue from the car rental business would go to NFT holders. There's a million different ways to raise capital. It's just doing it. I want to get it to a point where I'm at 12, so that I've been doing it for growing exponentially in that time. So I would never give a part of the business away. So that's just the only thing is there's a million. If there's a good deal, there's always money. So I'm not ever worried about it.
Sure, but what you just said sounds really interesting. I mean, maybe we would need to explore this a bit better, but maybe we could use NFTs as a sort of private IPO thing and have shares of our own company through NFTs that people could buy and sell depending on how well our company does.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, was an option. I was going to do that with tiny homes, and they would essentially have. I would buy a lot, put tiny homes on them, and a percentage of the income would go back to holders, and they could essentially use that to have like a night stay or a weekend stay at the actual resort. So that's one of my
kind of
side projects. Down the road is something I'll probably add.
Awesome. Hey man, yeah, it's as they say, money really is all about what you can see with your mind. Not as much as this mechanical thing that there's only certain ways you can do it. So yeah, man, this has been a great conversation. We're about 3.5 minutes to our end here. So do you have any final words before I ask you one question that I'm going to start asking from now on?
Yeah, I would say learn how money works because most people just don't know how money works. Most people think it's only a form of currency, but really it's a tool to get things done faster. If you're able to understand how debt works and how leverage works, and understand that debt isn't as bad as you think if you use it correctly, and that debt allows you to grow much more quickly because you're able to leverage your debt to make even more money. Just to give you an example, by refinancing our rental properties and buying more cash flowing assets, we would have made less money by not taking on that debt. Just like with the car business in the very beginning, you asked me, do I plan on paying off the cars? And as time goes on, I will. But if I can put in $1, if I could borrow $1 and get $4 out every single time, there's no reason to pay that down.
Yeah.
And so by paying them down quicker, I'm only cutting myself at the knees.
Congratulations, you earned one extra dollar by spending thousands.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, and to give you an example, I have $14,000 on this one loan, and if I paid that off, I'd only be getting $240. Versus if I took that $14,000, I would increase my cash flow by an additional $3,300 a month. So, would I rather have $300 or would I rather have $3,300? So, for using that same money.
Yeah, we'd have to think about that because we all know that that is bad, right?
Right.
So two last questions. If you found yourself like 5 years ago or whatever, would you do things the same way, or is there anything you maybe have done differently?
I would have moved to Texas a lot sooner. I think that I love Texas. The people are great. I don't know I wouldn't be where I am today if I haven't gone through everything that I have in the last 5 years, from buying real estate to moving to Texas to starting over, learning marketing, understanding sales and marketing and all that. So I probably wouldn't change anything just because I think that they're all learning opportunities. But I love Texas, and I wish we did move here sooner just because the people are amazing.
Perfect. As a side note, I have a client from Texas that's arriving today. We're going to be closing on their new property either this month or the next one. So, side note.
Congratulations.
Last question. What would be your book recommendation for today? Of all we talked about, what is the one book you'd recommend people study, or one that had a big impact on you?
So I wrote an article on my Medium, said the 6 books that would change your life and your business.
You have to link it, I believe.
I will say them as I find the article, but I know for sure one that I think is a very good book is The Richest Man in Babylon. I think that's a really good book. I think that it's an easy read, or it's not an easy read, it's a short read, but it definitely is one of those that really has some good learning lessons in there. As far as some other books, I just linked them down below. But the next one would be The Secrets of a Millionaire Mind. I think that Understanding How a Millionaire Thinks is a very good book, is a good way to learn how people think and have a mindset about money. Set for Life is the third book, which is more about real estate investing.
Which one is that? Sorry?
Set for Life.
Oh.
And so I'll post them all here.
Yeah, just so people have it there on the screen. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So Set for Life is another one. It's more for real estate and more for people that live in the United States, because a lot of banks don't operate the same here as they do in other countries. For example, I was talking to someone who's from from Germany, and they're able to buy houses with 110% leverage and or just 1% down. And here in the United States, yeah, it's crazy. 20% down for a investment property, or 3.5% for FHA. We put 30% down on our house. As far as the three other books, How to Win Friends and Influence People is a really good book for communication. Yeah, it's a really great book. Me Too. It's probably one of the first ones I've ever read. Sell Like Crazy is a really good book on marketing and funnels and how to. It's a really good book. I really like that one. It's kind of like Expert Secrets, .com Secrets, and Traffic Secrets all rolled into one. And then Profit First, if you are bad with money, it's kind of like the envelope strategy, where you would essentially take your money, put it into different accounts, and then live off of those accounts. So those are my 6 books that will change your life and your business.
Wonderful. Brandon, thank you very much. Don't forget to follow his channel at, where is it? youtube.com/@BrandonDuff. And Brandon, thank you very much for being here. I hope to have you here next year and figure out you're at 2 million already or something.
That's the goal.
Wouldn't that be terrible?
No, it would not be terrible at all. And I'm looking forward to coming on the show again and sharing all the things that I've learned in this next year.
Absolutely, man. Don't forget to stay and let me know when your daughter comes out. Have you picked a name yet?
Yes, her name is Madison Bell.
Madison.
Yes.
Nice. Congratulations once again. What was it? The money dad? No.
The boring passive income dad.
The boring passive income dad. Thank you very much for being here. Everybody, take care. And wait, let me see. Okay, yeah, this one. Congratulations. Night, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one. And I will read The Psychology of Money one night at. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Bye-bye.
Peace.